Okay, so I am going to teach you how to gather data from the Pierce County Open Geospatial Data Portal. First, we're going to start with roads. You can just Google this portal and then search for roads. You want to click download and then go to File Geodatabase. That's going to be the most comprehensive data set that you can get. You're going to open it up in Windows Explorer and then extract it. You can pick a folder for it to go in because you want to be able to easily find where you're going to extract these files. We're going to go back again and look for the next data set, which will be the tax parcels, and that's how you can get the different land use. Eventually, when you're doing a land use analysis, this is really important because all the data you'll need will be in that, but for what you're doing right now, it just helps give you the parcel shapes, and you're going to do the same thing with that. Download it, extract it, save it to a certain folder, and then we are going to look for building footprints, but sometimes data like that can be in different locations. So for the information, the first two data sets, we had to go to Pierce County, but for building footprints, it's at the Tacoma Open Data Portal. So search for that, download that. This one's a little different. There isn't a file geodatabase, so we're just going to go with the shapefile. Download that. Same process. You're going to save it and extract it into the same file that you can easily navigate to. I saved it in my tutorial folder just so it would be easy for me. And then once you're done downloading your raw data, we're going to open ArcGIS Pro, create a new project, title it whatever you want. I named it UDE Base Map Tutorial. Now, one of the first things you want to do is go into your environments, and you have to make sure you change the coordinate system, the projected coordinate system, to be the one for our area. I have it favorited, and it's NAD 1983 Harn. You can pause and look, but eventually you'll want to save that as one of your favorites because all this data was created in that coordinate system. And if you don't set that, it can skew your data and make it look really funky and stretched out. The next step is linking the folder that you saved all that raw data to. So on the right hand side in the catalog pane, you're going to want to click on folders, right click on that, add folder connection, navigate to the folder that you saved this data in, and click OK. And then right click on that and click refresh. And then use the drop down arrow and you're going to see all the data sets in there. And next we have to export them into your geodatabase. And we will go to right click, export, and then feature classes to geodatabase. And it's pretty easy. You just got to select the data set. So we're going to start with roads and hit run. And then it is exported from that file into your project. And you can see in the drop down menu, there it is, there's roads. Now just repeat the same thing. Oh, and then you click and drag it and drop it into the map and it will just automatically align. And you can zoom up and see these are all the road lines. The next steps is just to repeat that over and over again for your other data sets. We're going to go to tax parcels next. Right click, go to export feature class to geodatabase, hit run, and that will yet again bring it into your project permanently. click and drag, drop it into your map. We will change these colors later. But right now we're just getting all the data into the project. Export. And these are the building footprints. And now drag that into your map. And save your project often. Now that's your raw data that has been brought into the project. We can change the colors. You can double click it and it will open up the symbology panel. And you can click through different options, close out of that, and then double click on your building footprints or whatever layer of data that you want, and you can change the colors and mess around with it. Realistically, you don't have to do a lot of this symbology in ArcGIS. You can if you take the cert and you want to go deeper into understanding everything and being able to just know ArcGIS deeply. But realistically, as long as you've got the shapes and lines, it's vector space. And so once you bring that into Illustrator, you can change and align. Something I do is you can change the base map. I personally really like this gray one. I don't oftentimes keep the base maps, but it's a way that you can see what's there, and they update their base maps fairly often. You can see like there's a building missing, Court 17 is missing, so we're going to have to draw that in. You can do that in GIS. That's something that I would teach you later on down the road. For now, we are going to save, and we're going to move through the process of clipping this data set to reflect only our site and a little bit of context area outside. So to begin the process of clipping the excess data, you're going to want to go to the contents page pane on the left-hand side, and you want to tick tax parcels, building footprints, and what's left is just the roads. I'm just adding in the base map again so that we have a little more reference as we're doing this. And sorry, the road symbology is so light, it's really hard to tell, but you want to go to select and then drop down, and I picked the polygon. It's the easiest. Pick a spot, click, and drag, click again. You don't have to hold. Click another spot, however, wherever you want to clip this data. Click again, and then when you get to your last corner, double click, and you will see it selected those portions of the road. Now type in clip, and you want to click on analysis tool, and we're picking the roads data set. The roads are the clip features, and click that, and you can rename it what you want, but I'm just going to leave it what Arc does. Hit run, and what it's going to do is it creates a new data set over in your geodatabase, and it's the clipped version of the big data set. And I'm just going to show you, I'm going to change the colors of the roads so this pops more. Turn that on so you can see the difference, and if you hit clear, it will unselect everything that you've had selected. Just changing the colors again so you're able to visually see what we did, and zoom out, and as you can see, it's all the roads in Pierce County, so it's a lot. And the blue is just our site and the context around it. So we can unselect that one, and you can right click and you can hit remove, and it takes it out of your project. It's still over on that side, so if you need to put it back in your project, if you mess up something, you can always drag it and drop it back in. You can delete it, but I wouldn't, in case you mess something up. It's there, you can always pop it back in again. So I'm just showing you that. Save it, moving on to the same process, but now doing the building footprints, and we're going to remove the roads. And as you can see, there's a lot of building footprints, but we only want around this area. I just turned that on so I can see where I clipped it originally. Go to select, drop down polygon, do the same thing. You're going to click in the same spots to pick the area where you would like to clip your data. And again, you're just clicking and dropping those vector spots, and then double click at the end. It selects those. Same process. Clip. This time we're doing the footprints, so select those. And again, you can rename it if you feel like it. I didn't for this tutorial. A lot of times I do change it just as you're working in GIS. It will get more and more complicated if you're not renaming it, so it's clear on what layers are what. Constantly save your project. You can remove the old one. Now we're going to unselect that one and we're going to turn on tax parcels. Again, it's for the whole county, which is a lot, and we only need a little bit, so we're going to zoom back in. Same process again, the select drop down arrow, and you're going to click polygon again, just for reference, turning that on so I see where I want to clip. As you can see, we have all of the data clipped. We can remove the larger tax parcels, and now we have all three of the data sets, but they're much, much smaller in size. Turn them all back on. And you can see, there we go. We have roads, parcels, and building footprints. You can change the order of them. You can change the symbology. I'm going to show you a little bit. Just can click around and change things. Again, it's not a big deal if you do a lot of this in ArcGIS. Honestly, just get the lines on there, because once we export it, we're going to export it as a vector PDF. You can, if you really want to, do all of your symbology inside ArcGIS and export it as a flat PDF, but it's a whole new learning curve to learn how to do the graphics inside GIS. And I think working in Adobe Illustrator is much easier. You can change like the layer, which one's on top, which one's on bottom. As you can see, it changes what you're seeing a little bit and slightly, which ones are in which order. I'm going to quickly show you how you can add in the different reference or road names. This base map has some building names and road names, and you can click around and play with the different base maps to see which one you like best. You can turn off just the light gray base map and leave only the references, or turn those off and on, which is really convenient. I like the way those references look, but we're turning them off just so I can show you that you can also edit the actual layer of data, and you can go in and, just like the symbology, you can change like the font, the size. I'm going to change it to 4 right now, and then hit apply, and you can see that's maybe a little deeper than you need to go, but it's different ways to edit the labels on there. I'm actually going to just turn those labels off in a minute. And you right click, hit labels, and save. Next, I'm going to show you how to create a layout. So you're going to want to go up to Insert, New Layout, and then you're always going to be working with 11 by 17, so click on that one. Next, we're going to add in guides. If you right-click up on the ruler, and then you want to click on the placement and change it to offset from edge and put 0.5 and click on both. That will give you nice even guides for when we're putting in our map frame. Save that. Go ahead and in the ribbon to the middle of the screen, you'll find map frame. Click on that and just put in the map that we created. And I just go from one corner down to the bottom, kind of make it the size that I want. And then this isn't the exact scale that I want, because I want the context area to kind of fill up the whole map. So you have to right click and activate the map, and then you can either scroll, but that doesn't always work. So down at the bottom you can change the ratio, and you can see I mess with it until I get like the perfect size. Once you finally have your map to the right ratio and you're happy with it, you're going to need to close the activation. So go up to the top and click Layout, and then click Close Activation. And that will stop that map from being able to change. Save your project. And now I'm going to show you how to add in a north arrow. Just click north arrow, and you literally just draw in a little box and it populates. You can pick many different types. You can change the size of it if you want, change the placement. And next I'm going to show you the scale bar. Same as the north arrow, click on the scale bar tab, and you can pick any scale bar you want. Same thing, draw in a box, and there's your scale bar. It's really light though, it's really hard to see, so I'm going to show you how to edit and change to get a background so that the scale bar is more easily seen. You're going to want to double click on the scale bar over on the left hand side in the contents page, and then that will bring up the editing component to change the details of the scale bar. You can see there are a couple different options. Click on that third one, and then there's a background color. I'm going to change it to white and then gray so we can see it better, and adjust those gaps and just make it look good how you want it. And then I'm going to change it back to white, and it just makes it so the scale bar pops on the map. You can close out that pane, move the scale bar anywhere you want on the map that you're happy with. Next, we're going to go into removing the Esri text. If you don't want that, you can leave that there. I don't personally like having it, so you click dynamic text, click the credits, and put a new box in. Then over on the left hand side in the contents page, unclick that text box and save it, and it's disappeared from your map. We're getting ready to export this map so we can put it into Illustrator. Move your mouse up to the top and click on Share, and then it's going to give you a few different options. Go to Export Layout. Click on that. You have multiple options to choose from. Sometimes I do flattened PDF. For this project, we're going to do vector PDF. That way it's editable, and you can make changes inside Adobe Illustrator with all of these shapes and lines. You can see that there's multiple file formats to choose from, and You can change where it's located and saved. I'm clicking these because it just makes it a little easier. There's less that's exported and less for you to clean up later in Illustrator. After you've exported your PDF, we can open up Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to do both the desktop and the iPad version, so you have an opportunity to see both. I 100% recommend the iPad, but I know not everyone has a tablet to use, and the desktop Adobe Illustrator version is actually much more powerful with many more tools, but I just really like using my iPad pen and my hands to work. I feel like I'm faster than a mouse, but we'll show you both. I always open up and start all my projects in an 11 by 17 size, landscape orientation, and RGB color. That's better for screens. CMYK is better for printing, so you can change it depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a presentation or if you're printing it on a poster. One is go to File, Place. You're going to navigate to your files. I'm going to show you how to add in a screenshot from Google Earth Pro to add in some of those building footprints that weren't in the original. Then your layers panel is where you're going to do so much of your work. You can add a new layer, place, and we're going to add in that exported PDF. For some reason, the north arrow doesn't want to populate when it's a vectored PDF, and I'm not exactly sure why. But I'll show you later on in the video how to mitigate that problem by just creating your own north arrow. What I'm doing here is I'm aligning the exported PDF with the Google Earth Pro screenshot. And so I went to the Properties tab and I changed the opacity to 50% so it's just a little easier to see and align with my PDF. You can lock the other layer, which you can see I locked the exported PDF from ArcGIS Pro with all the data, and then I'm going in and I'm messing with the image until I scale it and resize it to match the other data. Just zooming in to check and see if it's somewhat aligned. This is definitely easier on the iPad, I think, than it is on the desktop, but I wanted everyone to get the chance to see both. Adobe Illustrator is a very amazing vector program, and I highly recommend you take the time to watch different tutorials to get more proficient in the program. It does take a little bit of moving and scaling. Just make sure you're always hitting the shift button when you're pulling an edge so that it constrains it and it doesn't change the ratio. Once you align the screenshot with your data, you can unlock it, you can look at all the layers. Something that I don't love about ArcGIS is that when it does export and it groups it, it clips it, so you kind of have to do a little work to make it a little more easily editable. And so I'll show you more of that in the iPad version. But you just ungroup things, and then you're able to separate and delete different items, like that messed up north arrow. I also forgot to do it in ArcGIS, but I usually remove the map frame because I don't like that on there either. And so that's what I'm working on here, is ungrouping and removing the clipping masks so that I can delete that map frame. Once you've ungrouped and released all the clipping masks, which there are a lot of layers of them, sadly, you're able to edit a lot better. I cut out that extra because there's just no reason to sit there forever and look at me ungrouping, but you can see what's selected right now. There we go, ungroup. Now I've just ungrouped absolutely everything. Everything's separate. So you can click on whatever you want to. You can change the color. I'm going to just choose purple real quick because those are some of the campus buildings, just to show you there's multiple ways to change the color. You can do it from that little quick panel, or you can, go over to the left-hand side and do it as well. Next, I want to show you that you can click and hold down Shift and select multiple roads. You can change the color of it. Since the roads are lines, they're not going to change color if you change the shape color, so you have to swap it and make that the outline color, the stroke color, and then it will change. You can also go into your properties and change the size of these strokes to make them thicker or thinner depending on how busy a road is. Next, I want to show you how to create a new layer. So you're going to go down to the bottom, hit that plus, and now you've created a new layer. We're going to draw some rectangles. So you can click on the rectangle tool, and I'm going to show you how to add in like a green space. So I'm going to turn my Google Maps back on so we can kind of see where those green spaces are. Get the rectangle tool, make the shape, and then you can rotate it and then just drag and move it wherever you want. Make sure you go back to the select arrow. And you can reshape it, resize it, change the color. I'm going to rename the layer green spaces. It will really help you, instead of leaving it layer 1, 2, and 3, is to constantly be naming your layers. It'll just make your workflow way faster. So I added another layer and then did buildings. I'm going to create a building shape so that you can see how to add in Court 17 here, since it wasn't in the building footprints of the Tacoma data. This is definitely not wonderfully done. This is the pen tool. Right now it's set to filling the shape, but I switch it over, you can see, because it's hard to hit that little flip, and then it changes it to the green as the stroke instead. And it's just easier to draw over maps and create your shapes a little faster. I decided to just take a shortcut, and then there you go, and then you can flip it again, and now it's a full shape. But obviously we want to change the color because this is a building, not a green space. And this is how to do it on the desktop version. Next, I'm going to show you how to do basically a full project through the iPad. I think it's much, much easier. So here's your layers panel. We're going to go in and add in our screenshot real quick. And then we're going to change the opacity by going to the properties panel. And I usually do like 50%. After importing that image into a layer, I shrink it down just a little bit. And then I add in a new layer, which is where I'm going to add in the PDF layout. First, I'm going to do a flat layout and just show you, because this one's less heavy, how the process works to like ungroup. So that's the ungroup button. And then you can open up your layers and just see, click. Then that's the release the clipping mask button. And you can see right there, there's that path that's just unnecessary anymore. So delete that. Click back on the group, ungroup it. And you kind of have to do this a few times, and it is kind of annoying that this is how it's exported. But I wanted to show you the process because the same thing is going to happen with the vectored PDF. I just don't show it because it takes longer, it's heavier, there's a lot more lines and shapes, because once I finish releasing all the clipping masks and the group, it ends up just being a flat image, and you can see. So this is like the upside of exporting a flattened PDF, is you can have a lighter, less data dense image, but it's not editable because it is a flattened PDF. So just wanted to show you that. This next part is with the vectored PDF, so this is all editable. I just skipped the part where I imported it and released all those clipping masks. You can see most of the work has been done, just deleting the last pieces. Here is the wonky north arrow that for some reason gets messed up whenever I import the vectored PDF into Illustrator. So like I said, later on I'll show you how to make that. So just go in and just deleting this because it's unnecessary. And what's left is all the scale bar. So you can turn off, this is something that I do, you can turn off layers. So I'm going to turn off the clip group, and what's left is just a scale bar, and I'm going to select everything because right now it's all separate, and I'm going to group it. There we go. And then I'm going to rename that scale bar. Grouping is an amazing thing to keep the things you want together. And there we go. Turn that layer back on. Once you've gone through the process of ungrouping most things, you don't have to ungroup everything, but getting it down to this level where your lines and your shapes are all editable, you can remove the frame and that wonky north arrow, and then you can see that everything is basically clickable. So we're going to go in and change building footprint to purple just so you can see. We're going to do a few of these, and then I'm going to create a new layer to show you how to easily move these items into a building layer. Something that you can do is you can select an item, hold down the shift key, which on the iPad is that little circle button at the top. You can move that, but you want to hold it down and select a few different things. And then I'm creating a new layer, and I'm going to name it buildings. I have to go back and reselect those buildings again, holding down the shift key so that I can select more than one. And then the easiest way, because there's so many items in that layer too, it's easier to go up to that little scissors. You can see I'm like looking for it if it's anywhere near, and I'm like, nope, way too much. I give up. Go to the scissors icon, and you're going to hit cut. And then you're going to click on your buildings layer and hit paste, and it brings them right back. And now, since they're all selected, you can go and change the color of all of them. And I'm taking those buildings, cutting those, and clicking on the buildings layer and pasting them back into that layer. I can click on the whole layer, and you can see some are purple, some are gray. But since they're all selected, you can go and change the color to all of them. It's super easy. This is why labeling your layers and organizing your layers by type of whatever you're trying to show in your graphics is super great for your workflow. And I just keep doing this a few more times. Next, I want to add in some of the buildings that are missing. So to do that, I'm going to turn on the layer that has the Google Earth Pro screenshot, and I'm locking layer 2, and I hid the buildings layer so they can't be touched right now. And I go in and I grab the image layer and I adjust it to the site. And I didn't have to scale it. It ended up being perfect, so that was convenient. And now I want to turn my layers, or my buildings layer, back on and unlock it. And I'm going to show you how to, I'm locking my bottom screenshot as well. But I want to show you how to create a building like I did in the desktop version, but on the iPad. So there's multiple tools you can use. I like the pen tool because it's just point and, click. And you just put points. And like before, you can flip it so that it is the stroke instead of the fill. It's just easier to see. And finish this building, and then we'll flip it back to fill, and there you can see we easily drew one of the new buildings. This is the Milgard building. This is a new one, so it wasn't in the building footprint data. Again, I'm going to flip it to the stroke and finish making that. Flip it back to fill. Just showing you a few other buildings. What I'm doing here is I'm going into layer 2 and I'm deleting these shapes. I'm not exactly sure what they were there for, or a lot of what you're going to have to do if you use GIS is doing some cleanup, because none of the data is ever perfect. Here I'm going to show you how to create like a green space. I just took the parcel area and I'm picking a color that I like, and then you can add it as a swatch color if it's something you want to use that isn't there, and I flip it to fill, and then I create a new layer, name it green space, and then I can create other green space areas within this layer. Same technique as before. Select it, cut it, go to the layer you want it on, paste it, and it moves it. This same thing, I can choose the color because I saved it, flip it, same, cut, paste. There you go. Next, I'm going to show you some roads with these lines, how to change the color and the thickness of the stroke. So selecting, we're just going to go with the highway because it's easy. Holding down the shift key so I can select multiple ones. I'm going to change it to red, and it's a busy highway, so we're going to go over to the properties tab. I turned off the screenshot just so you can see this better. After getting those selected, hit the properties, and there is the stroke size. And that's obviously way too big, so we're going to make it a little smaller. That's okay. You can change the way it ends, if it's rounded, if it's curved, if it stops at the point, or if it goes beyond the point. I'm going to change the size just a little bit. There we go. Next, I'm going to create non-UDE buildings, just so you can see another way of organizing your information and data. That way you can change the colors and maybe symbolize like the campus buildings as purple and the non-campus buildings as gray. Same technique as before. Select, cut, and paste it into the layer that you want it in. Next, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to show you how to quickly make a legend. I save often. Legends are super easy. You can just create a rectangle, move it wherever you want it, and then inside that rectangle, you can create your color swatch for your legend. And I had my green space color saved, so I'll select that. And then there's adding in text. Just draw a little text box, type in what you want. That red dot means that the font is too big, so we have to change the size of the font to make sure it fits the box. There are multiple ways to change the font size. You can do it all in the properties tab if you want, but that kind of shortcut bar is really handy. I use it a lot, especially like the nudge tool, the group tool, the duplicate tool. I'm about to show you that this is the align tool. I love this. I aligned my shape with my text. Now I'm duplicating this so I can make another one, and you can just pull it down if you want. But if you go back and you hold down the shift key and then pull it down, it keeps it in alignment, which is super convenient when you're trying to do a bunch of these. And then you can just go and change the color, and we can change it to UWT campus buildings. The text didn't fit and I wanted to keep it the same size, so just move the text box over so that it will fit all of your text. Doing the same thing, duplicating it, holding the shift button down and pulling that next one down, and we can do non-campus buildings. Again, making the text box bigger, but now it's overlapping, so we'll select the legend box and make that just a little bigger as well. Something I like to do is add in like a drop shadow, and this is a technique you can do on the iPad. If you're using the desktop version, there's an actual tool that adds in a really, really beautiful, nice drop shadow. You can have like a diffuse shadow. This is my way of hacking it because not as many tools are in the iPad version. There you have it. You can change colors, the fonts, anything you want, create your legend here. You are able to do it in ArcGIS, but it doesn't look very good, and it's so much harder to change all the details. Here I'm showing you how to add a deliverable title depending on what you're producing, whether that's an analysis or framework or whatever. Just like before, you type in what you want, and then you can use multiple areas to edit and change these things. That little quick menu bar is awesome to change the size. Here I'm changing the alignment of the text within the box, changing it to a different weight, a font, and then here I'm using the slider to just make it bigger. Nudge it around. There's an option to add in guides here as well if you are a person who really likes to have symmetrical guides. The rest is just me doing a little bit more of my workflow, adding in some more green spaces, some more buildings, just so you can see how I do it. There's other ways besides the pen tool and the rectangle. You can duplicate it, bring it down, and just change the shape of it. Here I created another layer, did a parking lot, changing it to gray. This is a way to trace over pretty much anything, no matter what it is, to create your own vector versions of it and how to copy and paste it from one project into another. I created this north arrow because of the same issue that happened when I was importing a vectored PDF from ArcGIS to Illustrator. I lost the arrow, so I created this one, and I'm just going to lock the one that I made and remake another one over the top of it for you to see. I probably won't voice record over this whole thing, but there's a couple techniques that are good. So there's different shapes that you can start out with that just give you a little bit of a starting point. I got a triangle and just kind of aligned that, brought the bottom up, and now you can go over to the tool below it. Actually, I go the pen tool, add in a new point, and then you just click that point and drag it up. And now you've got the basic shape. Now you have to add a solid triangle over on that other side. Many ways to do it. You could just click the pen tool on each corner. I just decided to throw in a triangle and then adjust the points, which is a technique that I haven't really shown you yet, and I use this a lot to adjust my things. So right above the pen tool and below the select tool, you're going to see the direct selection. So you can see if you click it while all of them are selected, it'll move the whole thing. So click on just one anchor point and you can move that. Click on another anchor point, you can move that one, and the last one was in place already. And then we can swap it to fill, and there you go. You've created a north arrow, and you can adjust slightly if you need to until you're happy with the way it looks. And then I just added in a text letter, N, and then I show you how to copy and paste it from one project into the next. Something that helps is to select all of it and group it. And then see if you change the color. You have to go in and select pieces within the group if you want to change it. So just the polygon, turning them off so you can kind of see how that grouping works. You can use the copy and paste tool just like in with the scissors, and you can copy it to the clipboard and you can actually go back and put it into a new project. After I'm back in our main project, I created a north arrow layer and I pasted it, and then you can just move it to where you want it. I also want it more on the map, so I'm gonna add in a little, you can put it there, or you can add in a shape and make like a white background to cover up the map a little bit, sort of what I did with the scale bar. Also, just so you can see that rectangle is on top of the arrow, so I had to move that down so you could see the layers properly, and I have to go in and change the color and make the N black and then the triangle that's inside there black. And there you go. Then you can resize it how you want. Hold down the shift key to constrain it and adjust how you want. Something that I did there was I changed the opacity of that white rectangle behind the north arrow so that you could still see the map, but the north arrow pops. And now I'm duplicating that, and I'm going to create these boxes around the context area so they're not as bright, and so the site pops more. I didn't realize it, but I was drawing in the North Arrow um, layer, and so I selected my context area boxes and moved them up into my context area layer. This is another way to do it instead of the cut and paste, and I changed the opacity to be a little higher so it really makes the site pop and the context areas fade in. And I didn't realize it until now while rewatching this, but you can just drag that North Arrow layer up to the top and it won't show that it kind of cutting it off there. Here I'm going to quickly show you how you can draw in sidewalks and any added detail for the rest of your projects and deliverables. I'm turning off all the extra stuff and just turning on the screenshot so we can see better. And I'm going to show you a different tool that I haven't shown you yet. It's the drawing pencil tool. And you can change the smoothing, and I like it high, so it gives me really crisp lines. You kind of just have to play around with it. You can start drawing. If you hold the pen down or your finger down, it'll put a point. And then I'm switching it to stroke so that it doesn't cover it. And then you can do the direct select tool and bring the anchor point down. And I'm just showing different ways you can mess with the anchors and change the way it looks. Zoom in here because I had an extra anchor point, so you can just delete one of those anchor points so it's smoother. And then if you double click on an anchor, you can change it from square to round. If it's square, you can drag that little circle right there and it turns it into a nice, smooth, symmetrical curve. I'm not going to draw a whole sidewalk, but you can see how to do it, and you can turn off layers to kind of get an idea of the different things you can do and how you can create your maps and your graphics exactly the way you want. Here I'm changing the color of the sidewalk to gray just so you can see the difference. I had drawn in I had shown you how to duplicate a building, so I'm just kind of showing you how you can hide layers, select them, delete things, clean up your map from GIS. Oops, deleted the wrong piece. Zoom in a little, select that one, delete it, turn your layers back on, and you can see it's a lot more clean and crisp. And this is really roughly done. Normally I would spend a lot more time making this very clean, but hopefully this is enough to get you started.